So Zach, why would they cut a slight hole in your fence? Seems kind of petty, not that expensive, right? I'll tell you why. They wanted one of our dogs to go through said hole onto their property so that they could call animal control on our dog. Yeah, petty. Or heck, shoot our dog. I don't really know what they're capable of at this point. So yeah, we repaired the fencing and we talked to our lovely neighbor on the other side, Denise, and asked her, hey, did you ever see anybody in our yard at any time? And she says, well, there actually was a time at around midnight about 6 nights ago or so, and our dog was barking for no reason. Couldn't figure it out, just told him to stop. But he kept going, and he was barking toward the direction of your yard. So we're like, huh, maybe that was whoever cut our fence making their visit to make the cuts. But in part 17, we're gonna go back to where we are presently, when the police officer had gotten him to stop revving his truck in his yard until like freaking midnight. Part 17 of Our Neighbors from Hell. And in the morning, something had happened. I went on to go to work, and all 4 tires of my car were flat. Now let me explain. They were not slashed, because that is a crime. They were emptied. That's right, someone took some form of pump, put them against my car's intake tube, and made the air come out of it. There's no crime, even if I knew who it was, other than for trespassing onto our property, which is basically just a stern talking to, instead of the felony of slashing tires. And also, I had no proof because somehow we didn't catch it on our cameras. So let's see, they've cut in panels of our fencing off, they cut holes in our other side of our fence, they flattened our tires, yelled at my wife, they've threatened to call police on us for no good reason at all, they've sung and screamed their lungs out until 10 p.m. every single night for 2 weeks, and sat in their barn drunk as heck, screaming at the top of their lungs for hours. And we're still on like level 5 of 10. Let's rev up those chainsaws. By the way, I'm not making any other types of TikToks until this entire story is done, so you guys can easily scroll through and watch the whole story. Because I know it sucks to get sucked into a story and then you can't find the other parts. I'm here for y'all. So I go out to my car and my tires are flat. Again, not slashed, just flat. I had someone come out to help me pump them back up. Went to work. Now the next week was quiet. Too quiet. And as my wife quoted last night, any single time that they were quiet for a long period of time, something was happening. And they were. And my wife and I were leaving the house to go to something, I can't even remember, like the National Potato Festival or something. And Mr. Bob Tiger was out there to yell at us. He said, the fence you guys put up is on our property. Now guys, I don't want to sound cocky, egotistical at all, but I'm a realtor. If anyone should know about a property line, it should be me. And I went through all the right systems to get my fence. I didn't just throw it up there. Went to the county, went to the city, got my permit, put it up with a professional. But Bob the Tiger had other ideas. Bob, I assure you, we did not build on your property. He said, the hell you didn't. Okay. You see these here rocks to go up the property? I looked down the property line. Yes, I do. He said, those are our property markers. Quick history lesson. Surveys used a meets and bounds system. And the corners of properties in Delaware are marked with 3-foot-long poles that sit underground, so that they can't move. Sometimes in deed restrictions, you'll see that they're marked with big trees or other immovable objects. Visible rocks that are only 6 inches deep in the ground? No. Now, I happen to know from when I bought my property adjacent to theirs that that property used to be a horse farm. I said, Bob, those aren't property markers, those are horse tie-down posts. There was even like an engraving halfway down so you could put like a tie around it. He said, no, they're property markers, I installed them. Real estate lesson number 2, you can't install your own property markers. But I played along and said, so you're saying all 4 of these are property markers? Yes! And lesson number 3, they would only mark the corners. They wouldn't put one every 50 feet. But what would they want to keep 50 feet apart? Oh, I don't know. They're horses. I said, Bob, with all due respect, I do have some real estate knowledge. Those are not property markers. I believe they're horse tie-down posts. His rebuttal, and I quote, if your fence isn't off our property by Monday morning, it was Sunday, that wasn't part of the quote, by Monday morning, my attorney will be on the property with me as I chainsaw down your fence. Just to be a dick. Which when these things happen, don't be a dick. I said. Are you only going to cut down the part that's on your property or the whole thing? Because in his words, only the back 2 panels were on his property, out of like 60 panels. And he said, because apparently he's a lawyer, no, if part of it's on my property, I can cut down the whole thing. Huh. So if I'm like going 5 over the speed limit, I could also go like 80 over the speed limit and there's no difference? If I killed 1 person, I might as well kill 27? You're saying the crime of my fence being on 6 feet of your property means you get to take the entire thing? So what did I do? I said, okay, Bob. And we went to the potato festival or wherever we're going. Not thinking he would actually break out a chainsaw. The police have been out several times. Even animal control's been out. But screw city municipalities, let's get the state troopers out. Because I called the police because they threatened to chainsaw our fence down. That's a no-go. And when they came out, he said, I was just joking. I was just joking. He issued them another warning. So now they're on their last steps with animal control and the police. The police officer came over and said, why don't you get a survey just to go ahead and end this debate? And I was real estate, I knew a guy, so I had the guy come out. Surveyor said that we were 5 feet on our side of the property. And at that point I wanted to ring on the front doorbell, and when they answered, give them the middle finger dance, but I didn't. But they weren't done. Not even close. Now, the rest of these parts are a conspiracy theory, but a pretty daggone good one, and one I truly believe could have happened. And if you're an OG of my channel, you remember when I told this story, because our security system is about to get involved. It's gonna scare the living poop out of me, involve the state troopers and guns. So, prepare thy anus. Now the police have been involved already, but why not get involved again? Because I got a text from the neighbors. And April Tiger, our neighbor, loved to write these long, glorious, obnoxiously illiterate texts to me. But there was one line in there that threw a wrench. It literally said, glad you got a security system, watch your backs. The heck? And it was within that week that I understood what they meant. Now, honey, if you're hearing about these texts for the first time, it's because a lot of them I didn't share with you. Because they only serve to make you angry. Don't hate me. I don't even know if you watch my TikToks. But 2 nights later, our security system would go off at 3:12 a.m. And if you've ever woken up in the middle of a dead sleep to a home security alarm that threatens your life because you have no clue why it's going off, you have not lived. Because it is awful. You're awoken from a sweet dream only to wonder if you're about to have a gun to your head. Or if your plasma screen's being stolen, which that's just as bad. A security alarm going off at around 3 a.m. will do that to you. And fully nude, I arose without clothes to grab my gun and my weapon and see what was causing this alarm. I got to the main panel next to the front door and it said, side door ajar. Huh. So I pied every corner until I got to the entrance of the side door closet area, and I opened up said laundry room closet area to see a door that was still shut. Huh. And so I put my weapon down and my gun, and I started to walk over toward the door to notice it was still locked. Huh. I didn't think too much of it until I remembered that text that was sent. And I'm like, is it possible that these ancient idiots that are called people, in their drunken stupor in the middle of the night, attempted to open our side door? We didn't have a camera on that door, so we wouldn't know. And it wasn't the first time it was going to happen. So it's the very next night. Of course, the alarm had gone off the night before. And we go to sleep cautiously. Still a little bit shaken up from the night before. If you want me to compare the feeling of what it's like to have your alarm go off at 3:30 in the middle of the night while you're still sleeping, I know, crazy, right?
Grow up.
Yeah. To compare it, imagine your dog was walking into the room and then all of a sudden it stood on its hind legs, looked at you, put on its glasses and said, hi, how are you doing? That's creepy, right? But there's no harm. That's pretty much the same thing. It was very disturbing and creepy, but at the end of the day, there was no harm done. Weird example, I know. So we go to sleep, and at about 3:15, lo and behold, the alarm goes off again. Though still a little bit physically shaken, I get up a little bit quicker, grab the weapon and the gun, and do the same exact thing. Pie around the corners, get to the side door, and see that it is still shut. Now, when I go over to it and I push on it a little bit, it's physically been pushed in slightly, like someone from the outside had pushed in, thus making the sensors mismatch and making the alarm go off. And then ADT calls us and says, would you like us to dispatch police? I'm like, second night in a row? Yeah. And in came the cavalry. So the state police has arrived in full cavalry form. In under 15 minutes, about 5 police vehicles pulled up. SUVs. Big. One came into the house to get a report from us while the rest searched our property. So the one officer comes in to get a report from us. We're like, hey, the alarm's going off twice, 2 nights in a row. It's kind of crazy. Same exact time frame. What's going on? And of course, I already had the file to show that they'd been out before, Dover PD had been out before, and of course, Animal Control had been out because our neighbors were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And so naturally, I bring that up. I'm like, it could be, that might be, if quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, might be our neighbors. So stupid.
I can't.
What?
I said I look like a rat. Stop.
You're a part of this story just as much as I am. So after they did a full police search of our property, they did come back with some interesting information. Now, it had rained that night, and they found what looked like watermarks on our staircase that led to that side door. Shoe marks, to be exact. Now, I could neither confirm nor deny whether this could have been mine, but I don't remember using that entrance. So the police are there, and they're like, someone might have been on that side door. Which makes sense, because the only other answer was like ghosts, and I really didn't want to think about that one. But with no real physical evidence, I couldn't do anything. So they took our report, they went home, and we went back to sleep. One night passed after that, and everything was good to go. Gucci's gold. And then the next night, guess what happened? At around the same exact time, between 3 a.m. and 3:30, it once again went off. This time, there was no fear. I got up, I didn't even grab my weapon, I was just frustrated. I went straight to the door. Oh, by the way, I left out one part. Whenever this went off, I would always open the doors, let the dogs run out first, and then I would go. Because you know what? The dogs could, like, distract them, and I could put in a quick pistol shot. Who knows? Got to the door, still same situation. It was slightly pushed in, not pushed in all the way, and unfortunately, again, our cameras were not pointing that direction. You would have thought after, like, 2 times in a row, we would have pointed the camera in that direction. So we had ADT come out and install a new system that would not go off if it was pushed in. And all of a sudden, it stopped. How'd the turntables... The police have just left because we had our 3rd straight security system alarm around the same time, and they found evidence that someone might have pushed in the door. So what happens now, you might ask? Well, our neighbor walked around the yard and came up to our fence and started screaming at our dogs. I don't know if we have any dog lovers out there, but when someone just screams at your dog, you want to scream at them with the knife. My wife, big dog lover, lost it. Started yelling very obscene things to her. And my wife she's not big a cursor, she's not a big, pirate mouth. But she was going like, arr, booty. She was letting it fly. Till El Skeletor, as we also called April, our neighbor who was like 70 pounds soaking dripping wet, started to like sob in anger. And that's when Bob Tiger arrived to save the day. Now I was at Firefly at the time. Like my only big day of the year where I just like chill. Wife called me crying, it's time to come home. Now I was at Firefly. Big music festival very local to me. Wifey called me crying, so I came home to a big ol' argument. Cause no one makes wifey cry! So I get home and I can hear the arguing from the backyard. I walk to the backyard, I say, wifey, go inside. Now wifey's brother-in-law, Jack, happens to be there as well, and he films the entire thing. They start spewing the most ignorant nonsense you've ever heard. We've got a file built up of all the stuff you've done, and we're gonna call a cop. Okay? And then it turned into, all we ever wanted was to invite you over for dinner. April, you don't look like you ever eat. One of my favorites, I haven't drank alcohol in years. She works at a winery. She also reeks of alcohol, that helps too. And one of my personal favorites, Bob came in with this zinger. I used to be a professional softball player and I could still swing that bat. What? A professional softball player? You go! But it wasn't done. 30 parts. So he basically threatened to hit me with a baseball bat, and given his professional softball background, I am frightened. And then he references the time where he was sitting on the top of a shed drinking to his delight and screaming. And he said, and I quote, yeah, that spot gives me an awful nice view over that nice fence of yours. And then, maybe I might just have the old 12 with me next time. Let's dissect that. First of all, you just threatened to shoot us. That, in all 50 states of the continental United States of America, is a crime. Also, nobody in their right mind refers to a 12-gauge shotgun as the old 12. The good old 12 sounds like a group of 12 Vietnam veterans who get together once a week to play poker, smoke cigars, and complain about millennials. And you can blame it on my secondhand high, probably from being in Firefly for so long, but I was calm and collected, and I just kind of ended it there. I thought the threat of murder was pretty much the peak of the conversation. Yeah, of course I went inside, played it off, I was like, they're crazy. At one point, I physically called April crazy right in front of her husband, and he didn't even correct me. But the old 12 was coming back.